Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Has anyone ever come back to the planet Earth after they were dead? Yes. There are so many stories in the Quran, not just for the humans, but for other beings as well. For example, the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, where he was ordered to take 4 birds, train them, then slaughter them, mix their feathers and meat together, and call them back, and they will come back to him alive the way they were before they were slaughtered. And they came back to him on the same sounds that they were trained on. A lot to learn from this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we will resurrect you back exactly the way you were, as we have each and every information on you, even the pores of your fingers, your fingerprint is recorded. Subhanallah, subhanallah, subhanallah. And this was a living proof that these beings did not even just come back into existence, but they had the memory of what they were doing, what they learned prior to being dead. So when humans will come back to life, it will be a brand new body in which the souls will be put from the Barzakh, but they will have the recollection of everything that they have done in their life before. So there are a lot of things to learn from these stories. Now, this is the story of a bird. Now look at the story of the fish of Musa alayhi salam when he was going to meet Khidr alayhi salam in Surah Al-Kahf, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that this dead fish came back to life and found its way into the waters, making a tunnel. So a dead fish coming back to life. Yes, transitioning to another realm, that's another thing, but did come back to life in this world from being dead in this world. Inna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. So birds dead coming back to life. Fish, which is something that stays in water, dead comes back to life. So a flying entity and a swimming entity. Now let's come to a 4-legged animal like donkey, for example. In Surah Al-Baqarah, that donkey of Udayr alayhi salam turned to dust and then came back to life in front of his own eyes. The whole donkey from dust came back to life, exactly the way it was 100 years ago. Subhanallah. These are the stories of the other species. Now there are stories of humans as well. In Surah Al-Baqarah, a person is dead among the people of children of Israel during the times of Musa alayhi salam. Nobody, and he was killed. Nobody is accepting that they have killed this individual. In fact, the killer came in the court and asked the judge and the police and the court system to find the killer. And at that time, Musa alayhi salam ordered them to slaughter a cow. Long story short, when finally they found the cow, they made it complicated for themselves. They could have slaughtered any cow because they did not want the actual culprit to be caught. So when the piece of the cow was struck against the body of this person who was dead for however many number of days, he came back to life only for a few moments to tell the name of the killer and then die again. And what does that tell you? That tells you a few things. The soul, it knows the killer, right? So it came back, and with that memory of the past life and the name of the killer, told through the tongue of the body that had been dead for some time, and then the soul was taken back because its task was done. So all of these stories were there because there was a reason for the soul to be back, there was a reason for a Jan to be back, or the nafs to be back in the animals, and the ruh to be back in the... And this is not the only story. Again, another story from the life of Musa alayhi salam, when the children of Israel were so stubborn about this, that we want to go and see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لَن نُؤْمِنَ لَكَ حَتَّى نَرَى اللَّهَ جَهْرَةً. Will not believe in you, O Musa, until we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our own eyes. And then a group of them, 70 of them, went with Musa alayhi salam, but of course they could not withstand, and they all died. They all died. And then Musa alayhi salam made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring them back to life. Otherwise these people, the children of Israel, will revolt against me because the way they are. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought these people back to life. These stories are all in Surah Al-Baqarah. Beautiful stories in that same surah where humans were brought back to life. It's not an NDE, a near-death experience. Soul is out of the body and soul is being put back into the body. And this was their destiny. This is how Allah wrote it, that their souls will be taken away, and the Musa alayhi salam will make a request, and we will return the soul back into the body. So it's not like it wasn't in destiny and Allah changed the destiny. No, this is how it was to happen. And now let's look at another story, which is also mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah. Thousands of people, with the fear of losing the life, they left their country. وَهُمْ أُلُوفٌ إِذْ حَذَرَ الْمَوْتِ. They left their country because what used to happen in that country was the poor people used to stay back, the rich people used to move out during the pandemic days. So the poor would die, the rich would be safe. So now the poor people decided next time pandemic hits, we will move with the rich people out so that we can defeat death. So this time when the pandemic hit, the poor people along with the rich people left, and when they went outside of this vicinity of the city or wherever they thought it would be safe enough, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered them to die, and all of them died instantly. And then what happened? Their bodies turned to skeletons. And then once Hizqeel alayhi salam went past this huge, humongous bodies, or which were in the form of skeletons, and make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah raised them back to life. And this time they all came back to life praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they went to their settlements and they settled there and they lived and completed the rest of their lives. Subhanallah. Subhanallah, subhanallah. So this was also written in their destiny. It was not like... So what kind of Barzakh life they had for those years, Allah knows best. But these guys really had an experience of Barzakh temporarily, only to be returned back. And that's why it was a game changer for them. And that's exactly when those 70 men from the children of Israel went back to the people. That was a game-changing experience for them. They saw the reality and came back and said, we were wrong to ask for such a thing. And we are glad to be back alive among you guys. So stop making these kind of nonsense wishes. So these are only some of the stories. And then if you look at into the life of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, there are stories of he bringing some of the people back to life, and some of them actually lived a regular life, and this all happened by the will of Allah. That's why he would always say, Isa alayhi salam, "Qum bi idhnillah." Get up by the will of Allah. It's not my doing, it's a doing of Allah. And then they would get up. Like one man, he rose back to dead, and he later on got married and children and then lived the rest of the life, and he died a young man before. However, we also find in some of the books that Isa alayhi salam, like books of tafsir I'm talking about, that Isa alayhi salam once went past a grave and noticed a woman crying by the grave and in a very terrible condition, and then sees Isa alayhi salam and says, my young daughter, who did not yet reach the age of puberty, passed away, and I want her back. I know you, by the grace of Allah, can bring the dead back, so I want you to bring my daughter back. So Isa alayhi salam stood by the grave, made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the grave opened up and the young girl came out and said, who woke me up? And Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam said, on your mom's request, I woke you up. And she said, why? And Isa alayhi salam said, because your mom was missing you. She wanted you back. Look at her. She's in such a bad shape because she longs for you. And the girl's response was, I don't want to be back. I don't want to be back in this world. Please send me back. Now think about it. A soul of a child who is living in the company of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam in the Barzakh, why would you want to leave that life and come into these tests over here? So those who are good people, pious people, righteous people, once they see the other side, they would not want to come back here. Or in case of the children, when they die young and they move on to the Barzakh life, they don't want to come back. And yes, I already told you, when our loved ones are presented with our deeds, if they're good, they make dua for us in there. And they cannot make dua for themselves. That's where people get confused. Oh, we thought they can make dua. They can make dua, but not for themselves. That's why we make dua for themselves, for them. But they can make dua for us when they are presented with our deeds. And if it is bad, they ask Allah to guide us. If it is good, they ask Allah to keep us on the right path. Because they have seen the reality, the true nature of life. What is the life? So it actually starts with the hereafter. This is just a resting place for some time. So Isa alayhi salam made dua to Allah, and the girl went back, and the mother saw that her own daughter doesn't want to come back. And then there's so many other stories, like children of Israel asking Isa alayhi salam that you have brought back to life so many people who have recently died. How about you bring back to life somebody who was long gone? Like the son of Nuh alayhi salam. So Isa alayhi salam went to the grave of Sam, the son of Nuh alayhi salam, and made dua to Allah, and he was also raised back from dead. And his hair turned white. And Isa alayhi salam was like, the first man to have gray hair was Ibrahim alayhi salam. Nobody had gray hair prior to him. He said, because of the fear of Yawm al-Qiyamah, my hair turned white. And when you called me, I thought the day of judgment has happened or is about to happen. Otherwise, I do not want to stay here. Send me back. So anyway, there are many other stories like that. And we find some of them in the life of Isa alayhi salam. And we find some of them in other places in the Quran. So yes, there have been people who came back to life miraculously, but they had a purpose. Now people say, okay, why can't my loved ones come back? Because there isn't any purpose for them to be back. And a lot of them would not even want to be back if they're in good shape over there in the Barzakh life. And if they're not, then make dua for them, because there is no reason for them to be back. There's no point that will be made for them to be back. These are some of the stories which were the miracles of the time. And if you notice, in all of these stories, prophets were involved. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to make a point, and the prophets' dua were given the status of a miracle. But these were their miracles. But anyway, I hope this answers the question that you guys had, and also tells you the reason and the purpose behind it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive all of our loved ones who have passed away, and may Allah forgive us, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant all of us Jannat al-Firdaus without any questions on the Day of Judgment. Ameen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam.